In this podcast episode, Ben Shapiro delves into an intelligence operation executed by Israel's National Intelligence Agency, Mossad. This operation, which involved the interception and detonation of pagers intended for the Lebanese terror group Hezbollah, is described by Shapiro as one of the most effective and targeted military actions in history. He emphasizes the significance of this operation in the context of ongoing conflicts in the region, particularly the threats posed by Hezbollah and its Iranian backing. Shapiro begins by outlining the backdrop of escalating tensions between Israel and Hezbollah, a group that has been engaged in hostilities with Israel for decades. He notes that since October 7th, Hezbollah has launched thousands of rockets into northern Israel, resulting in civilian casualties and mass evacuations. The group is heavily armed, with a significant stockpile of rockets, and has been responsible for numerous attacks on Israeli civilians. Shapiro highlights the urgency of Israel's response to these threats, framing the operation as a necessary measure for national security. The crux of the podcast centers on the details of the operation, which involved the interception of approximately 4,000 pagers that were to be distributed to Hezbollah operatives. Shapiro explains that these pagers were not typical devices. They were specifically used by terrorists to avoid detection by modern surveillance technologies. Mossad's intelligence capabilities allowed them to infiltrate Hezbollah's communications, leading to the successful detonation of these devices at a predetermined time. The operation resulted in injuries to nearly 2,800 individuals and the deaths of 9, primarily targeting Hezbollah members. Shapiro describes the operation as not only effective, but also hilarious in its execution, given the absurdity of terrorists relying on outdated technology like pagers. He argues that the operation exemplifies the precision and effectiveness of Israeli intelligence, contrasting it with the indiscriminate violence often perpetrated by terrorist groups. He asserts that the operation demonstrates a level of targeting that is unprecedented in urban warfare, as it primarily affected only those affiliated with Hezbollah. Throughout the podcast, Shapiro addresses the moral implications of the operation, arguing that there is nothing inherently wrong with celebrating the demise of terrorists. He cites various biblical passages to support his view that the righteous should rejoice in the downfall of the wicked. He contends that the laughter and celebration surrounding the operation undermine the fear and respect that terrorists seek to instill in their enemies. He dismisses criticisms from figures like Edward Snowden, who express concern over the potential dangers of such operations, asserting that the operation was meticulously planned and executed with minimal risk to civilians. Shapiro transitions to a discussion of U.S. foreign policy, particularly under the Biden administration. He critiques the administration's approach to international relations, arguing that it has led to a perception of American weakness on the global stage. He points to the increasing aggressiveness of adversarial nations like China and Russia, suggesting that the lack of strong U.S. leadership emboldens these countries to act against American interests. Shapiro emphasizes that the best way to achieve peace in the Middle East is through decisive military victory, a stance he believes the current administration fails to understand. The podcast also touches on the upcoming presidential election, with Shapiro highlighting the significance of the current political climate. He discusses the tight race between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, noting that Harris's approval ratings are low and that she struggles to connect with voters. Shapiro critiques Harris's responses to questions about the economy and immigration, arguing that her inability to provide satisfactory answers reflects poorly on her campaign. He suggests that the Democratic Party's focus on identity politics and social issues may alienate voters who are more concerned about economic stability and security.